You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art Ed?
We'll try to spice it.
Who art is Mr. Wood art Ed me?
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be looking at James McNeill Whistler. James Abbott McNeill Whistler was born on July 11th, 1834, in Lowell, Massachusetts. His father was a prominent railroad engineer. His mother was a homemaker and a devout Christian. This combination of practical, worldly father and a pious, cultured mother would shape Whistler's personality and his art throughout his life. From a young age, Whistler was known for his sharp wit and a tendency to be argumentative, traits that would define his public persona. The family moved to St. Petersburg, Russia in 1842, where his father oversaw the construction of a railroad. It was in Russia that a young Whistler began his formal art training at the Imperial Academy of Fine Arts. He showed a natural talent for drawing and a keen eye for detail. But this time in his life was marked by tragedy when his father died of cholera in 1849. The family returned to America, and Whistler's mother, Anna McNeill Whistler, faced serious financial strain trying to care for her two surviving boys. It appears she received some sort of widow's pension benefit, but it was only about a tenth of what her husband had been earning. She became known for being very thrifty and disciplined to make ends meet. Her primary focus was on helping her children succeed. William went off to medical school, and she enrolled James in the United States Military Academy at West Point, hoping it would provide him with discipline and a stable career. Now, this is one of those details I find a bit surprising, as West Point is a prestigious institution and very difficult to get into. From what I gather, even in Whistler's day, it was hard to get in, but perhaps not as competitive as it is today because of the smaller population and the smaller number of people pursuing higher education at that time. Still, it was hard to get in, and it would appear even harder to stay in through graduation. Whistler's time at West Point was short-lived and famously unsuccessful. He struggled with the rigid discipline and excelled only in a drawing class. He was expelled for failing chemistry and later quipped, quote, "Had silicon been a gas, I would have been a major general," end quote. After leaving West Point, Whistler was determined to pursue a career as an artist. In 1855, at the age of 21, he set sail for Europe, and he would never again return to the U.S. He first settled in Paris, which at the time was the center of the avant-garde Western art scene. He enrolled in the studio of Charles Gleyre, a respected academic painter, but Whistler was more interested in the revolutionary new art he saw being made by artists like Gustave Courbet and the emerging Impressionists. He embraced the bohemian lifestyle of a Parisian artist, forming friendships with many of the leading figures of the avant-garde. Whistler's early work was heavily influenced by the realism of Courbet, focusing on the everyday subjects and muted color palette. But soon he began to develop his own unique style. He became a leading figure in the aesthetic movement, which championed the idea of art for art's sake. For Whistler and others in the aesthetic movement, the primary purpose of art was to be beautiful and to provide a sensory experience rather than tell a story or convey a moral message. This was a radical departure from the traditional academic hierarchy that prized historical and allegorical paintings loaded with symbolism. This belief in the purely aesthetic power of art is most evident in the titles he gave his works. He often referred to his paintings as arrangements, symphonies, or nocturnes, deliberately drawing parallels between painting and music. He wanted viewers to appreciate his paintings for their formal qualities, the harmony of colors, the balance of shapes, and the overall composition, much the same way you appreciate a piece of music for its melody and rhythm. In 1859, Whistler moved to London, which would be his primary home for the rest of his life. He continued to refine his artistic vision, creating a series of stunning paintings of the River Thames at night, which he called his nocturnes. These paintings were highly atmospheric and abstract for their time, capturing the misty, industrial beauty of London in a way no other artist had done before. Now, the fact that Whistler was doing things that others hadn't done before, he had somewhat radical ideas for the time, combined with an outspoken nature. All of this brought him into conflict with the conservative Victorian art establishment. Famously, in 1878, he brought a libel suit against the influential art critic John Ruskin. Ruskin had viewed Whistler's painting Nocturne in Black and Gold, The Falling Rocket, and in a scathing critique, he accused Whistler of, quote, flinging a pot of paint in the public's face, end quote. Now, Whistler felt like his reputation and his livelihood were at stake, so he sued Ruskin for libel. The resulting trial was a big public spectacle, pitting the traditional art world against the emerging modernists. When asked in court how he could justify charging 200 guineas for a painting that took him only a day or two to create, Whistler famously replied, quote, "I ask it for the knowledge of a lifetime," end quote. And I think this is a really big insight to be mindful of as we value not just art, but anyone's labor. While the task might appear effortless when carried out by a skilled professional, that skill comes as a result of years of study and practice. Although Whistler technically won the case, the judge awarded him only a single farthing in damages, and the legal costs bankrupted him. The trial, though, solidified his image as a rebellious and forward-thinking artist who was willing to fight for his principles. So financially, it may have been a bit of a Pyrrhic victory, at least in the short term, but probably a fairly big win for his reputation in the long term. It also became a landmark case in art history, highlighting the growing divide between academic art and the new, more personal and subjective forms of expression that would come to define modern art. In the years following the trial, Whistler continued to paint and exhibit his work, gaining a dedicated following of patrons and admirers. He became known for his portraits, which, like his landscapes, were more concerned with capturing a mood and a harmonious arrangement of colors than with creating a precise likeness of the sitter. He was also a master printmaker, creating a series of etchings and lithographs that are considered among the finest of the 19th century. James McNeill Whistler continued making art in London up until he passed away in 1903 at the age of 69. He left behind a rich and complex legacy. He was a dandy and a provocateur, a brilliant artist, and a tireless self-promoter. His insistence on the primacy of artistic vision and his belief in art for art's sake had a profound influence on generations of artists and helped pave the way for the abstract art of the 20th century. Now, after a short break, we're going to take a closer look at one of his most famous works, Arrangement in Gray and Black, No. 1. Welcome back. Today we're looking at James McNeill Whistler and his famous painting, Arrangement in Gray and Black, No. 1. Although you probably know this painting by its more popular title, Whistler's Mother. Painted in 1871, it's oil on canvas and rather large. It's about 56.8 by 63.9 inches. The painting depicts Whistler's mother, Anna McNeill Whistler, sitting in profile in a sparsely decorated room. She's wearing a simple black dress and a white lace cap. Her hands are folded in her lap, and her feet rest on a small footstool. The wall behind her is a muted gray, and on it hangs a framed picture of a scene of the Thames River. A long, dark curtain hangs on the left side of the painting. Interestingly, despite the popular name, Whistler initially didn't plan to paint his mother. He had originally arranged for another model to pose for him, but when the model failed to show up, his mother offered to take her place. The pose, though, was not a comfortable one to hold for long periods. The original plan was for his mother to stand, but Her age and frailty just made that impossible. So he had her sit. The result is this serene and dignified portrait we see today. The painting was met with a mixed reception in London, but when it was exhibited in Paris, it was hailed as a masterpiece and was eventually purchased by the French state for the Musée de Luxembourg, a rare honor for a foreign artist. Whistler was adamant that the painting should be appreciated for its formal qualities, not for its sentimental value as a portrait of his mother. In his book, The Gentle Art of Making Enemies, he wrote, quote, "To me, it's interesting as a picture of my mother. But what can or ought the public to care about the identity of the portrait?" End quote. He wanted the viewer to see it as an arrangement in gray and black, a study in the subtle harmonies of these two colors. The composition is a carefully balanced arrangement of rectangular and triangular shapes, creating a sense of order and stability. The stark simplicity of the setting and the limited color palette force the viewer to focus on these formal elements. But despite Whistler's intentions, it's impossible to separate the painting from its subject. The portrait is a deeply moving depiction of old age and maternal dignity. The somber colors, the quiet, contemplative pose, all evoke a sense of tranquility and introspection. The black of the dress can be seen as a symbol of mourning. Anna Whistler was a widow, but we also see this sense of strength and resilience. The white cap and cuffs provide a stark contrast, and some see suggesting purity and grace. The picture on the wall is one of Whistler's own etchings of the Thames. It's a subtle and personal touch connecting the artist to the subject in a tangible way. Arrangement in Gray and Black, No. 1, has become one of the most famous and recognizable paintings in the world. It's been parodied and reproduced countless times in pop culture. During the Great Depression, the painting was marketed as a symbol of American motherhood, and it toured the country, drawing huge crowds. The United States Post Office even issued a stamp featuring the image with the slogan, "In memory and in honor of the mothers of America." Like most great paintings, I think this one's a hit because it works on multiple levels. We have the beautiful aesthetic qualities that Whistler was so focused on, but also there is a genuine sentimental appeal. While Whistler would likely have been horrified by the way his arrangement has been transformed into this tribute to motherhood, there's no denying the painting's profound emotional resonance. It's a work that manages to be both a radical experiment in modern art and a timeless, universal portrait of a mother's love. It's an interesting testament to the genius of Whistler's painting that, on some level, even Whistler didn't appreciate, that he could create a work of such formal rigor and emotional depth at the same time. A painting that continues to captivate and move audiences more than 150 years after it was created.
This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.